this way. All right. So for our React review, we are going to do a build of Rick and Morty. And we're going to do a complete build. And I've done a little bit of setup here. I have a React app. I've set up a template. I've ripped out all the default stuff. I've made a pages directory and a components directory. And I have installed a couple of things, but we'll kind of talk through all the steps as we go. And I've also gone and I have taken all of the different kind of Rick and Morty requirements. So we need an about page. We need a characters page. We need routes. We need a not found component and or not found page. We need a nav bar. Testing with Cypress, but we will put this one last. We're going to use Bootstrap today, I think. I'm not sure what the issue I ran into yesterday was, but I fiddled with it for a bit and we should be good to go. We need character details. We need a favorite character. We need to be able to add or remove characters. We can't have more than 4 favorites at a time. And if we have time, we're going to add some Cypress tests. So that's really the goal here. What I think is really important to do is to take a little upfront work and do a little diagramming, right? We've done a lot of diagramming over the past week or so. And so I'm going to do a little bit of it now before we dive in and we really start kind of like writing code and I start asking you guys to navigate and stuff. And I know that I'm going to want a bunch of different pages, right? I'm going to want some sort of homepage. I'm not even sure if we need much on there, so I think I'll probably just leave it empty. And we'll just put something here to indicate that this is our homepage. I'm going to want an about page. And here it asks for us to get some information about the show. So I propose that we try to get the number of characters and the number of episodes. And this is what we display, right? And we say like Rick and Morty has, XYZ characters and XYZ episodes. And we know that we're going to want a character detail page to see an individual character. And let's see if we can get a bit more room here. I think that's close enough. And we know that we're going to need to use a character card to show this character. So we're going to have in here another component. Character card. And that's going to have, their name and an image. And we'll just shrink this up a bit because it's going to be used in a lot of different places. What's special about the character detail page that is not true about the home page or the about page? Rick, yes, sir.
I'd say the details page only shows like one character or the character that you have selected. The home page and the about page are giving you like information about everything, and the details page is only about one character. So you have to have a uh, so you have to have some way of actually selecting a character to show its details.
Yeah. And I'm going to start adding the URL routes that we're going to want for our different pages. Um, and actually, Rick, what's the route we're going to want for the character detail page?
The route. Well, if you're talking about the router, do you already have a React router installed, I'm assuming?
No, we haven't done that yet, but I just want to talk about it at a high level without even worrying about the details of writing the code. Like I
Okay.
know in my app, right, I want to
Mhm.
go to the about page to see the about page, this page for the home page, and then what about for a character?
So for our character details, you're gonna have to pass the param to that page. You know, like you're gonna have, like you were talking about the other day, /1 for character one, which I think is Rick, and then you're gonna be passing the ID to that page so that you can display that character by ID. So you're gonna pass the param.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you. And I realize my question was maybe a little bit too much of a leading question there.
Well, no,
I'm going to try
I
and
know
use
what you were
red.
getting at.
Good deal. I'm going to try and use red to indicate like things we're grabbing from React Router and blue for component state. Um, so we can just kind of think through this as we build this out. Because I know that I'm going to need to have in the URL bar here the character ID. And we're going to have to make an API call to get character data, right? And that character data is in fact then going into our character card as well. Though we might not need to pass it as component state actually, so I'll leave it up there. And so I've got a character detail page, and as I keep kind of building this out, we're going to have the all characters page, and I'll probably just call this character page and all chars page. And I know that I'm going to have some component state here for all my characters. And then the route is going to be slash characters, and that we're going to have a bunch of character cards, right? And it'll look something like that. And then finally, we're going to have our favorites page, right? And I'm running out of space here a bit, but I think we're kind of getting the idea of I've got favorites, and I'm going to need to have my favorite characters. And we're also going to have a bunch of character cards. And the character card component needs to do a lot of stuff. Oops, excuse me. right? If I kind of go back over here to my character card, the character card actually is going to do a lot of work. And so let's design that one out a bit before we dive in as well. And so, my character cards can have the character's name and the character's image, but we're also going to want to have some buttons that do something. We're going to be able to want to see like is favorite. Yes, no. We're going to want to be able to add to favorites, and we're going to be able to want to remove from favorite. So the character card is going to need functionality to do all those different things. So we've done a lot of designing here. And I want to pause and just see if folks have questions or stuff that we're curious about. Okay. And again, Alex, yes, sir.
Okay. I know the router is for multiple pages, right? Is it ever best practice to just like create the router skeleton, all of that, if you're just doing a single page application? Or is that not best practice, unnecessary, or should you just go ahead and do it for
Yeah,
scalability purposes, maybe in the future?
yeah. And just for purposes of jargon, really any React app is referred to as a single page application. It's a little confusing. When you hear single page app, think one index.html. So just FYI in terms of using that term. But to answer your question, if I don't need like routing, front end routing in my app, then I don't need React Router. Really, front end routing gets us the URL bar, it gets us browser history, and it lets it feel like a sort of a website with different pages. Um, Rick, yes, sir.
No, I just add on to that if you're looking to expand in the future, maybe set that up. But yeah, initially, if you only have one page, I'd say, yeah, you don't need it. But
Yeah, totally. All right, so we've designed a lot of this stuff out. Let's talk through our sort of to-do list, or I like to call it like the implementation steps. And this is where I'm gonna start calling on folks. And let's just talk through like again at a high level, not all the details, but what do I want to do first? Do I want to set up React Router? Do I want to make some pages and so on? So, Bryson, if we're gonna start building this thing, like what's the first thing that you want to do? And actually, let me go ahead. Let's just do touch notes.md and we'll open it up here. And this way we can have the requirements and our diagrams and the current page up, right? So right now, this is all I've got. Um, Bryson, what's the first thing that we might want to do here?
Set up the nav bar.
Yeah, I love it. And once we set up the nav bar, what would you want to do next, Bryson?
After the nav bar, I would set up the hero page or the landing page, the home page.
Yep. And then after the homepage?
Then you would set up whatever you put in the nav bar. So like character detail, all characters, favorites, about.
Yep. You mean like the links in the nav bar?
Yep. Yeah.
And what am I going to have to also set up to make those links work?
The React router.
Yep. So we're going to want to set up React Router. And what else will I have to set up to make those links work?
Um, each of those pages.
Yep, exactly. And I don't mean sometimes if the question feels like a trick question because it's straightforward like that, it's not trying to be, just so you guys know. Yep. and I like to call it a skeleton page because we're not going to worry about, putting too much content in there, but I want just enough so that the router actually goes to real pages. And the one thing I'm going to do is switch this order a bit of, let's set up React Router first, and then let's make some skeleton pages. And then let's put the links in. And the reason I'm switching this order is I really like to always run my code after I write code. And this way I do this, I make a page, I can test it, and then when I make the link right away, I can check to make sure that it's working. Bryson, what do you want to do after we've set up the nav bar and we've made the skeleton pages? What might you want to tackle next?
When you say skeleton pages, are you just saying that you just put like the minimum amount of data in each page, or are they like good to go?
The absolute minimum, no use state, no use effect, literally looking basically like this.
Yeah, so after you confirm everything's working, you'd probably want to start actually setting up those pages with like, like all your APIs and CSS and all that.
Totally. Like which page for which of these features would you want to tackle first? The about page, the character detail page, the all characters page, the favorites page?
Probably like about.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. It's simple, right? We can get the ball rolling. So then we'll make, let's call it flesh out, or honestly, what I often say is I just say like make about page real. Awesome. I think this is a good start. After about page, what page would you want to do next?
I would do the all character page.
Yep, I think that's a good one as well. And to build the all character page, what else will we have to build?
The API.
We'll have to make the API calls. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What else?
Um, is it that like directory that you set up yesterday?
We'll have to set up the directories and stuff for sure. And in fact, I'll just put that in here as like, I'm going to call it like project setup,
Mm-hmm.
installing things, make ders. But what else does our all characters page use that we need? And I'm kind of,
The CSS, like the boxes.
we're going to need CSS. But we also need, where I'm going with this is we need our character card component.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Again, not trying to do trick questions. So and again, the goal here is just to sort of, now that we have this sort of like implementation plan, we can really focus on writing code. And I think this is pretty good because this takes us through a lot of stuff. So Bryson, thank you very much, man. And great job. So let's start building this. So I'm just going to go through each of these steps and call on a different person for each step. And as we do it, remember that you can phone a friend. And sometimes if there's a lot of steps, I might call on another person, and we're going to use Bootstrap. So Ryan, I think you're up next. Why don't you navigate me through some project setup here? Tell me what directories I need to make and what things I should install so that we can use Bootstrap and React Router.
Yeah, so I think first thing would be to do an install of React Bootstrap.
Yep. And once I've done that, what else do I need to do to start using React Bootstrap?
The import statements.
Yep, exactly. What do I need to import?
Let's see. So for Bootstrap, you need to import the Bootstrap dist CSS bootstrap.min, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can, if you're like 80% of the way there, you guys can just be like, you need to import that bootstrap CSS file into main, or I think it's main. And to be honest, I don't remember exactly what that file path is. So I'm in fact going to just go to the docs and scroll down till I find it and copy it and paste it and go ahead and put it in. And let's just put it there. And now I see the bootstrap style happening here. So I'm good to go. Alex, yes, sir.
So I've been sort of starting from scratch, and I've noticed that all your demo code comes with this import React from React. And whenever I create a new npm create Vite project, I've never seen that. And I don't know if it's something that I'm missing that's essential, although I see that in your code it doesn't seem to be being used.
It's not essential. I forget why this gets imported. I think with some other things, it might matter. It might just be you have a different version of Vite.
Okay.
Yeah. I see a couple hands up. I do want to make sure we don't get too far off course on the review. Yeah, I'm happy to dig into stuff later, but if it's not related to building Rick and Morty or how this code works, I'd like us to hold it for today. Um, awesome. Ryan, thank you, man. Good deal. We've got some projects set up. We've got Bootstrap installed. What else do I need to set up besides Bootstrap?
You need to install the router as well, React router.
Yep. So let me go ahead and do npm install React router DOM. And we have that setup step later. If you want, we can tackle it now, or we can come back to it later. What do you want to do?
I would just, I guess at this step for me, I would just import it in my main right now since I'm thinking about it.
Awesome. So I import router provider, and then what do I do with router provider again?
Import router provider, and then it needs to go down below where the app is, and it just needs to
Yep.
say router provider space router
Yep.
equals brackets router.
Yep. Right. And we haven't created that router object yet. So let's go ahead and
Oh.
do that. And Ryan, I realize we've gone far afield here, but I think that's a good call. We can just get this set up and going. Can you walk me through a bit of what I need to do to set up this router, this React router configuration file?
Yeah, so this is the router.jsx. Yeah, so in here, import the create browser router in
Yeah.
the squiggly brackets. Yeah, perfect. And then the
Yep.
constant router, yeah, equals create browser router.
And then what do I need to pass in as arguments to create browser router?
The paths.
Yep. I need an array.
Yeah, so
And
the
then each
arrays,
path
and
is an
then
object, right?
okay.
And what's the first path I need to make?
The first path is going to be your home page, your default homepage.
Yep.
So it should be path and then quotations, just backslash. And then the element will be the app.
Yep. Right. And that's all we need. There is one more thing I need in this file. This is a little bit of a tricky question. It's actually not related specifically to create browser router. What's the one thing that's missing here? And if you want, you can phone a friend.
Um, Is it the if the export is it not you're not exporting the default
Yeah, exactly.
router? Yeah.
And I saw a couple of hands up, and I'm pretty sure we were all on the same page there. So thank you guys. Awesome. So now we have a router set up with a really simple route object, right, for our main app. And now to go back to where you were navigating around, we can now import and use our router here. So I can import router and use that router object. And now I know React Router is working because we see the React Router error message. Right, and I can go back to my home page and we are good to go. Awesome. So we are trucking along here, right? Because now I've got Bootstrap set up, I've got React Router set up. I think we're almost done. Ryan, is there anything else that you think we should set up before we move on to the nav bar?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much good to go. The one thing I would do is I'm just going to install Axios, but that one's, Axios is easy to install and we can always do that later. Ryan, awesome. Thank you, sir, and good job. Up next on our list is Cricket. Cricket, all right, sir. Can you help me create a Bootstrap navbar here so that in app.jsx we can import our own navbar component?
So you're gonna find the Never Bootstrap framework, HTML, CSS,
Yes, sir.
and then copy that.
Yep. And let me go ahead and make a component for us. And I agree with you. This is one of the rare situations where just copying the whole thing
And then
makes
pasting.
sense. And let me go ahead and rename this. All right. And what would you like me to do next?
And I would do a about page setup.
Well, before we get to the about page, I'd like us to use the nav bar to make sure that the code is working. And it looks like, actually, I see there's a red squiggly here, containers missing. I think I just missed that. So now that we've created this navbar component, how can I use it in my app so that I can see, and I apologize, I actually did not put the navbar here in our pages. So let me kind of draw it in. I'll make it purple maybe. And Cricket, you can remember you can always phone a friend if you want. Right? So we're gonna have our page title and then we're gonna have our nav bar.
Okay.
And I think there are a couple folks on deck to help. So if you want, you can phone a friend. You can
Yeah.
ask someone else in the class.
Yeah, Tony.
All right. Tony, let's pass the mic to you. We're phoning a friend. I've got a navbar component. How do I add it to my app so it will show up?
You need to input it into the development on the app.jsx.
Yes, sir. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to import my fancy navbar. Right. And Cricket, I know we were kind of going on this path. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it right here in what my app renders. And then we see the fancy navbar. Awesome, and thank you. And in fact, I'm going to get rid of this H1 because I don't think we need it. And let's just rename. Tony, how can I rename React Bootstrap to say Rick and Morty?
On the nav bar brand right there, you're just going to change the text in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. And then we can use this as our link back to our homepage later. And if I look at the nav bar, I see there's this drop down. I actually don't really want this drop down. So I'm gonna look here and I see this part is all related to the drop down and I'm gonna get rid of it. Awesome. Cricket, thank you, sir. And Tony, thank you as well. All right, so we've got a nav bar. Up next is making the homepage. And Sam, you are up next, sir.
Sweet. Okay. You'll go to pages. Yeah, pages, and then you're gonna make a new file, and you can name it homepage.jsx. Yep, let's see. Yeah, it's already named homepage, return. You I mean, we can kind of add some stuff right now, but right now the main thing would be setting it up with the React router. So I think we have to import link from React router DOM, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Where am I putting the link?
That's going to go at the top, so like the second line.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, brackets link from React router DOM. Yeah, we just
And
have a simple.
what am I making a link to?
Going to be to just the router, right?
I think, are you
Or
saying
to
like how do I
homepage.
set it up so we can see the homepage in our app?
Yeah, well, to see the homepage in the app, we'll have to put it in the actual router.jsx and make it a child of the app element.
Yeah,
So it'd be like
exactly.
comma children. Yep. And then curly bracket index. And I assume we'll want to see this one first. So index will be true, and then the element will be homepage.
Yep. And why do we do index true for homepage?
Because this will be the first one. Like when we set index to true, it'll be the first one that appears when we go to the website.
Yep. Bang on. Awesome. And we are almost home here. I've got index true. I've got the homepage element. But if I look here, I don't see that homepage message showing up. So there's
Yes.
actually one
So
React Router DOM step that we forgot.
we need to add the outlet in
Yeah.
main or app main.jsx. No,
Yeah,
app.jsx.
exactly. Exactly. Right. And if I kind of uh react the dev tools components is escaping me, but right now, let me draw on here. Right. We need the outlet, which will then render whatever page our router navigates to. Exactly like you were saying, and we did not set that up earlier.
Yeah, so I'd put it under fancy nav bar. Actually, I'm gonna be
Yep.
yeah.
Nice. And why under fancy navbar?
That way, fancy navbar like displays on all the future pages that will make that route through the outlet.
Yeah, exactly. Right. What the React router will display the pages in the outlet, and I want them to show up below the navbar. Um, awesome, man, and thank you. Cricket, yes, sir.
So outlets just only for chai or the pet.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The different children that we make here. In the app, React Router will render them inside the outlet. And if I can get components dev tools to show up, we can see this if I scroll down far enough. There we go. So there's a lot of extra stuff. Like now we've learned a bit about context, but down here we see the homepage component inside the outlet. And as we add more pages, if we go to about, instead of our about page, we'll then see the homepage there. Does that help answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. And Sam, uh, with the homepage, actually, what I really want is I want this nav bar sort of brand here to take me back to the homepage. How can I do that?
You want the clicking the nav bar to take you back to the homepage?
Yeah, I want see how if I hover over Rick and Morty.
I see what you're
my-
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you'll go back into the nav bar.
Yep.
And
And
then
I know I'll need a link, the React router link, like we were saying before.
yes, and then you will do like a nav link. So probably in the yeah, where they have the nav links already. Actually, they already kind of have one set up. Instead of the href, you'll do as equals bracket link,
Yep.
and then to the slash.
Yep. And in fact, I can even just put an empty string there, which should do the same thing. Fingers crossed. And now let me test that this works. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put in something that's not correct. Actually, it's going to be hard to test because we don't have other pages yet. So it's a little hard to test, but we can test it once we have other pages. And remind me what as and to are doing here.
It's I don't have a complete understanding, but as far as I know, it's just using the router setup um as its like quote unquote link.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Basically, we keep the nice Bootstrap UI and the way that this brand looks, but it's like if you open up the hood of a car and you saw, I don't know, a barrel of monkeys inside or something else. Under the hood, it's using React Router DOM's link component so that we get our nice React Router navigation. Yeah, I thought that was a great breakdown. And Sam, thank you. Rick, yes, sir. I saw you had a question.
Not a question, but I mean, we could always do a console log, but we can do what you said. Just test it later.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a great idea. I'm always a fan of using console logs as like informal unit tests and test-driven
Just
development.
test that. Yeah, have it load when the homepage loads, and it'll show it in the console.
Yeah, I think the problem we're running into here is React Router knows I'm already at the homepage, so it doesn't navigate me back to it.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Yeah. All right.
yeah, but actually let's see, what do we have next on our list here? So we've set up the nav bar, we've made our homepage, we've set up React Router, make skeleton pages. So this one, I'll go ahead and do, um, and then actually, let's see who's up next. AJ, I'm gonna make a couple skeleton pages for us, and then can you navigate us through hooking them up to React Router? So I think I'm gonna make a page for, um, let me remove this link. I know you were doing that before, Sam, but I think we're gonna use the nav bar. So let me go ahead and make an about page. And I'm going to keep all the pages really simple. They're all going to just have an H2 that says their page name. And let's make an all characters page. And so now I have an about page and an all characters page. And that's probably all we need to worry about right now. So AJ, can you help me hook these pages up to React Router so that if I go to slash about, we can see the about page show up. And then also add a link here to the about page so we can click on it and go to the about page.
Okay. Um, just because I always kind of try to work top down on both of those pages you just made, I would probably get well, on the characters page, I would put an import Axios from Axios at the top. Just to get ready for when we put the API link to get all the characters.
Got it. Got it. I like it.
And then I would also put a use state in there. Just so we have that ready. Import use state from React.
Yep. And I'll grab use effect as well. So we'll probably want that.
All right. I know we didn't set anything up for the characters, uh, but I don't know if we want to do that too, like the input, the placeholder, and the button for it, so it's functional when it's time to call it, or if we just want to get the link set up to go to the page.
Let's get the link set up with React Router first. Which isn't to say there's definitely more than one way to build, and I am kind of like doing it my way.
Yeah.
So there's definitely nothing wrong with building the full page out, but for the moment, let's get this hooked up to
Sure.
React Router.
Well, we have to technically do the same thing in the about page, but if we want to go to the router to the children elements, we need to set up the next path. Go down in curly brackets, path character page, so we have somewhere to direct to.
Yep.
And then also an element characters page as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Now that we have, I mean, we could do the same thing for the about if we want. Well, I mean, for the all characters while we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I was just thinking that as well.
Yeah.
I'm
And
with
now
you.
we have two pages we can potentially navigate to, even though there's nothing on them yet.
Yes, sir. I agree. And now we can test these out. And
Yep.
we've got about, and we've got all characters. And what did I do wrong here? I'm confusing character. This is always a gotcha. And the Rick and Morty API does character singular in the API call. So I'll keep it like that. And then we'll see all the characters. Nice. And now if I want to add links here in the nav bar to, and actually we can now finally test our homepage, and that brand from before is working. And AJ, navigate me through adding links in the nav bar so that the user can, click on an about link. There's an about and there's a all characters link.
Okay, so it's one of two things I think. I'm not certain on this. Either we have to go back to the nav bar like Sam did and set it up there, or I'm thinking about the manual link with the outlet link to page, stuff like that. I
Got
don't know
it.
if one of those two are correct, but I know it has to be one of those two, I think.
Yeah, you're on the right path. You're absolutely right. If I wanted to add a link, like let's say, for example, I decided on my homepage, I wanted to add a link to different pages. Like you were saying for the second thing, I would sort of import that link component and I would say link to,
About, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Stick an
And
outlet around it or an outlet above it or no?
we do not need an outlet above it. We only need the outlet once in app.jsx to show
Oh,
each page.
okay, I see, I see.
Yeah, exactly. And we might do it this way later. For the nav bar, kind of like you were saying, we want to do something like what Sam did here. We want to use that link component, but we also want to use this nice bootstrap styling. So here for our about page, we can do as link and then to about.
Yeah. Then one more for all characters.
Yes, sir. Awesome. As a link and to character. I can already tell the character versus characters is going to throw me. And now we should have about all characters home. Awesome. AJ, thank you, sir. Let's see here. If I go back to our notes, so we've got skeleton pages, we've got links in the nav bar. We are making good progress, guys. And before we move on, I just want to check in to see if folks have questions to maybe review anything that we've been doing thus far, because that's very much the goal for today. And how are we doing? Are we finding this sort of way of doing it useful?
Yep.
Awesome. Oh, okay. And I see a bunch of questions. Perfect. Rick, yes, sir.
It's not a question. I just hope we don't break it with Bootstrap, because the last couple days we've had issues with Bootstrap.
Yeah, I could not figure out for the life of me what my problem was yesterday. Before class today, I did build out a bit of Bootstrap stuff, and it worked okay. So I think we should be good there. Actually, you do raise a good point. We haven't set up any layout stuff. Rick, can you walk me through? I think what I want to do is like, can we set up maybe 2 rows or like some like a little bit of like row and column in Bootstrap just so uh we have the page inside of Bootstrap layout and the nav bar as well.
You're muted, Rick.
There, sorry. Yeah, my question was, are you talking about the about page or the home page?
Um I'm talking about app.jsx.
Okay, all right. Well, for the about.jsx, you want to make multiple columns. Ooh. We've already got the header. You got the outlet. Yeah, I did all my columns inside of the individual pages.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and we might do that later as well. What I'm thinking here is like the way that if I just go to so this is our home page here, and we don't really have the I don't really have the page title anymore. We replaced that with our nav bar.
Yeah.
Um, and if I have, I'll kind of put the outlet here in orange. Right, I've got the nav bar and I've got the outlet. And if I can kind of put each of these in like a bootstrap layout with a row and column, you know what I mean? Then everything
Okay.
inside my outlet will always be in there.
All right. Well, you can start off by making a div. So not you could do it after the outlet.
Yeah, I want to take a little bit of a different approach because
Oh, okay.
yeah, and let me just demo this one because I realize that I'm kind of giving a little bit of unclear guidance as well because as you can tell, I'm flipping the script a bit here, and I said I was going to just drive, but now I'm doing a little navigating.
Well,
Um,
you can make a div and then use a class name, and then add your grids and columns into it. But yeah,
yeah,
you import that. Oh, you're doing it in front of it. Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm gonna use
You're
if
gonna
we were
use a
using
container.
Tailwind, I think we absolutely would want to make some containing divs and stuff. But and I know this was where Bootstrap, where Lord knows what I was doing wrong yesterday, but something was not happening with Bootstrap. Um, and the reason I want to set it up this way, as we're going to see, is by putting the outlet inside a bootstrap layout like this, where it's
Oh
just
yeah.
one row and one column. Now we have, yeah, I think you see where where I'm going. We have this
Yeah.
really nice layout set up here where Bootstrap is taking care of all of this.
Oh, that's Tailwind, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking of Tailwind, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I knew exactly what you were talking about with Tailwind. And that's exactly with Tailwind how we would do it. I know there were a couple other questions. Tom, and then I think it was Alex.
Yeah, if you add fluid to container, will that fully flesh out to the end of your page? I'm pretty sure it will. It's just I remember using the container rows and columns previously, and had a lot of issues with the bootstrap layout, not wanting to get rid of the entirety of the white space margins because yeah, like it's
Yeah.
hard to see since it's all white space right now, but we have like a tiny white space margin on the far left and the far rights
Yeah.
that it doesn't seem like we can ever get rid of.
Yeah. Yeah. You're correct that fluid will get rid of more of that margin on the sides. And in fact, that margin is actually added by Bootstrap. So to kind of quote the old saying, it's a feature, not a bug. Um, I think there's ways to override it, but that is sort of Bootstrap's default behavior is to sort of add that margin on the edges of everything. I think you're right that with Fluid, we have a bit less of it, which certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah, no, I just noticed it. It helped the other day when I was adding like background images and colors and everything. Because having it go from like black to bright white was very contrasting and horrible. Um, but it also helped with the dynamic resizing of all my stuff in there as well.
Nice. Nice. Um, Alex, yes, sir. I think you had a question as well.
I did. It's not too relevant, I guess, but when you want to set up the skeleton pages, like say for homepage, about page, or all charts page, uh, the skeleton code, what are you using? Is it like an Emmet ordeal?
It's Emmett. Yeah. So in fact, we're gonna need a favorites page in a little bit. So let's go ahead and let's do favorites.jsx. So yeah, like you were saying, Emmet is a VS Code extension. It's been around before VS Code. It's there for other editors. I think it's installed by default. And so for certain keywords, Emmet picks up on it. And the same way we can use Emmet to just create a whole bunch of HTML elements all at once. Like I think div, like that creates two divs. Or if I did div h1, Emmet will do that for me. Since JSX syntax is really similar to HTML syntax, they're both XML with the angle brackets.
Right.
XML stands, I think, for extensible markup language. We can use Emmet to just generate that, and VS Code is kind of, you know, if I wanted to give my component a different name, I could just do it there. And when I hit escape, for me with my sort of Vim plugin, I got to hit it a couple times, but then it kind of quits out.
But real quick, to use those, you have to have the snippets downloaded for whatever you're using. I had to help a bunch of people download
Oh,
the React snippet because
I
that
did
won't
not
show up.
realize that.
Yeah.
That is, thank you so much for mentioning that. Yeah, if someone could actually drop the React snippet VS Code extension link in Slack, I would appreciate it. Um, to be honest, half the time I just copy and paste from one file to another. You then just have to be a little careful when like renaming the component name, not to have a typo. Um, if we had like if our pages we don't quite have enough to make it worth making a page template, but we're borderline, and we haven't really seen. You can do stuff with React Children, but to be honest, it's not really worth it. Um, yeah, good question. And Alex, actually, while I have you, now that we made this favorites page, can you navigate me through adding it to our router so I can go to favorites and then also see it here in the nav bar?
Got it. We had the favorites. Should we let's go to the nav bar and add the link? Is that link
And so
to
what should I change to here for favorites?
favorites?
Yep, I like it. So we see favorites and we'll change this to favorites.
Hmm.
And now when I click on it, I get this error, right?
Okay.
So what's causing the error and how do I fix it?
I think we'd go to router.jsx
Yes, sir.
and create a path.
Exactly. And I am just going to copy this and I'll make a favorites path for us.
Mhm.
And we need to now use the favorites page component. Good deal. Thank you,
Nice.
sir. All right. Let's see. We've been going for a while here. I think in a couple minutes we should take a break. AJ, yes, sir.
Oh, I just have a quick question.
Yeah,
When I set up my Rick and Morty stuff, I never made a components folder. Is that just a best practice, or does it need to be under the components folder for the nav bar?
that's a good question. It's just the best practice. It's not necessary. Um, it's a good habit because as time goes on, you'll have more things in here. Like our character card component can live in here. Sometimes you might want to make like little components, but it doesn't need to be there. As long as, the only difference is really like if I wasn't putting my page components, for example, in pages, then the only difference here is in router, when I'm importing, the path would be different.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question. Absolutely. Why don't we take 5? And then when we come back, we will be making the about page real. So we'll fetch some data and then we'll make the all characters page real. Sound good? All right. And how is this sort of like, going down the roll call list and having people navigate working? Is this a useful review for folks?
Yeah, that is useful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's very good.
Like it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Good deal.
it should do in the future. So sometimes I'm
Yeah.
looking like where I have to put like running through like 5 to 5, and I was lost.
Perfect. Rick, yes, sir.
No, I was just raising my hand saying, I agree. This is good.
Yeah, and we're killing it. And I want to point out too, like I like to do a lot of setup. Everyone's a little different in like their workflow. I go a bit heavy on the setup side, but I really think like for the assessment, you might spend an hour. I wouldn't spend more than 2 hours, but I think an hour is perfectly reasonable just reading through the assignment, writing out, right, the steps that you need, making diagrams and making a list like this because I think it's kind of like with pair programming, you have one person to offload stuff from your brain to. This is sort of like pair programming with myself because I can sort of be the navigator in advance, and then when I'm writing code, I can focus on driving.
I do have a
Um,
question about.
yeah,
Okay, so if you know what you're going to build, I guess I already answered my own question, but so for like the assessment, would you recommend that we like read the entire assignment and figure out exactly what it's asking? Because I have a tendency of just
yeah,
like jumping head first, going, okay, it wants these pages, and I'll go on and flesh out the pages and start adding just skeleton for like the pages and everything, and then I'll move on and read the rest of it. But yeah, I'm assuming that's not the best way to go about it.
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, at the end of the day, workflow is personal. The same way, like what text editor do you use to write code is a personal choice. Like, am I using VS Code or IntelliJ or Cursor or Vim or Emacs? That said, this idea of pseudocoding has been around a long, long time. There are a bunch of studies that show that it helps with productivity. Um, I'll drop a link. In fact, there's this book, Code Complete, I like that talks about it. And I think every software engineer at a certain point in their career ends up coming up with their own version of it because at a certain point, the projects just get too big and too complex. And I do think starting to do it now with the assessment is a good idea and a good habit. Um, I do think it's important not to spend too much time on this and not get too lost in the sauce because Rick, kind of like you're saying, at a certain point you hit diminishing returns. And like, we mapped out about 50% of what we have to do here, right? And I think that's a good target. And the other reason to do it is as you do this, you're actually designing it in your head, and it's way easier to think about things when you're designing things. Um, like as I'm doing this, I might realize, for example, oh, you know what? If I'm getting the number of characters here, am I going to have to call the Rick and Morty API to get all of the characters? And if I'm doing that, since I need all of those characters anyway, over here for the all characters page, maybe do I want that component state to be somewhere else? Like maybe I want that to be brought up to the app so that
Yeah,
it can be passed into
app.jsx.
here and into here. And that's the kind of thing where you can see it when you're coding as well, but the more you guys sort of put a little time up front into designing and pseudocoding, the more you'll find you start to think about that stuff. And then when you get to writing code, you can focus on, the details of writing code. Yeah, great question. All right, let's take five guys, and then when we come back, we will in fact tackle that exact issue with the about page and the all characters page. Thank you guys, and I will see you all in. All right. So just to kind of recap where we are, we've made really good progress. And also the reason I like this approach, to go back to your question, Rick, is it helps with consistency, right? It helps debugging become easier. And as my projects get bigger, like this helps me make steady progress. And I think that's really valuable. So we've got our project set up, we've got Bootstrap, we've got our nav bar, right? It's responsive. We have our routing, and we have some skeleton pages. And next up is making the about page real. And Tom, you are on deck for this one. So our goal is I want to be able to say that I want to get the number of characters and the number of episodes from the Rick and Morty API, and on the about page, display that information to the user.
Yeah. So, um, typically what I like to do is I have to see if that's going to come from an external source or from the API itself. So I check out the API documentation,
Yep, agreed.
and as we can see there, looks like we can get the number of characters from the info right there under count. And I'm not seeing episodes though.
Yeah, for episodes, we are going to have to let me go to the top of their docs. So if we do API/episode, We see
There
that,
it is. Count.
yeah.
Okay.
And this is a pretty common pattern with REST API guys where so this is sort of all the episodes, and so it's not uncommon when you see basically metadata, right? And here they've just chosen to call it info, and then the actual results are here.
So we're on our about page, so we need to import Axios.
Yes, sir. Import Axios.
And then we will need to, let's see here. We want to display this. Since it can dynamically change, I'd say we'd probably want to create a use state for this as well. So also import use state.
Yep, I agree. And I know we're going to need use effect as well, so I'm just going to import that one as well.
So let's go ahead and create a use state, and we'll say something like for characters, and then set characters, and equals, yeah, use state, and we'll just set it to null. And then we'll do the same thing, but for episodes.
Yep. And actually, I'll just, if we don't pass in anything, I think use state sets it to null. It's either null or undefined.
And
Nice.
then let's go ahead and do a function here.
Yep. And actually, let's, if you don't mind, let's pseudo code out like at a high level some of the different steps we want to do before we write the code, just for fun.
Oh, sure. If we wanted to make it simple, we could create a API string and use forget the term for it right now, but the backticks with the money sign and the little brackets. And that way we can
Yeah,
interchange episode and character and utilize the same thing and just switch out the API endpoint because it
sure. I
looks
like
like,
that. Make flexible API call.
yeah.
Um, and actually, I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah, and I may have been a little unclear here. I was thinking even more high level, like
Oh,
we're gonna need to make a use effect, make
gotcha.
API
Gotcha.
call in use effect, uh, update state and render state, in our return. Um, so I wasn't trying to ask a trick question there, and I think that's actually a really neat idea. And I see you're diving right into implementation. So let me step back and let you navigate here. And you were saying to create a function.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and create a function and we'll do, we'll say get about data. And we'll do async, yep. And then, yep. And then in there, let's see, we'll go ahead and do, oh, trying to remember here.
Yeah, and you can always phone a friend.
Our verbs. Um, no, I think it was something like, I don't remember if we have to set, oh, that's what it was. We can do, response or yeah, like const response equals await
Yep.
axios.get, and then we'll do
Yep.
the backticks,
Yep.
the API.
Let me go ahead and grab that. And we grab that. I know we're not going to use the whole thing. It's like you were saying, we're going to instead just change the resource to whatever name we
Mhm.
want. And actually, I'll just add string name of API resource episode or characters or location, and I'll just say see Rick and Morty API docs. Get all data for Rick and Morty API resource. And Tom, thank you for letting me jump in here. I just know you guys had requested kind of more commenting around code, so I figured I would get it in while we were talking about it. And then what do I need to, when I'm doing like a sync await, what do I need to wrap this in?
A use effect.
We absolutely need to do a use effect. And I was also thinking
Oh
of
yeah, promise. The try catch.
yeah, a try catch, exactly. If we're using a sync and await, the await stuff needs to be inside that try catch block. And let me go ahead and just add a really simple catch here in case we have an error. Console.log error. I like where you were going with the use effect. What do you want me to do next? We could flesh this out, or we could build the use effect.
Let's go ahead and build the use effect.
Sounds good. So I've got a use effect. I've got my arrow function to hold this in. And then I'm going to add an empty dependency array here. And can someone remind me, what does this empty array here do? Like, why do I want to add it and not just have the use effect be like this? Tony, yes, sir.
It's telling the use effect to run once whenever the page loads.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then Tom, what should I do with our function now that we've written it in our use effect?
We need to call it.
Yes, sir. I like it.
And then we'll also need to give it data.
Say that again.
We also need to give it data though.
Oh, you're absolutely right. My apologies. I forgot about that. Which one you want to do first?
I guess let's build out a little bit of the page first to see which one we should do first.
Rick and Morty has what did we say? Characters dot length characters, and it has episodes dot length
Yep. Okay.
episodes.
So then yeah, we'll just call the characters one first, and then we'll call the episodes
Yeah,
one next.
I like it. And I threw in a console log here. So let me hop back to our app. Let's see here. Cannot read properties of undefined length. Right. So this is where we get into some of the tricky stuff with React. Right. And in fact, let me add here the console log showing that we're calling our async function. And let's just add a console log here saying that we're rendering. And one up top here just saying that we've started to execute this component function.
Yeah, we also haven't signed anything to it, so
Say that again.
we haven't done a setter to anything yet, so it's not going to render anything yet.
Yeah, we totally need to do that. let's see here. So set, ooh, which setter do I want to use?
So I was gonna say that we could probably do that in the use effect, possibly, and
So,
then do the wrap the function and pass that into the setter.
oh, I see. So we would do like set characters, but then over here we would maybe pass
Yeah.
in. I like that. So we're passing in our set state function as an argument. So we're making this sort of a higher order function. It's taking another function as an argument. And then in here we can do set resource
Response. Yep.
response. I think it's response dot.
Info.
Right. We're gonna have to see. It depends what we want to put in there.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it was titled as info for the API.
yeah, so we're running into a couple issues here. It is indeed it will be .info. I think there's two questions to answer. One is, do we want to store just the the number of characters or the whole results array? And I may have jumped to conclusions based on the named here. On the name, I thought we were going to store the array. The other issue we're running into here, though, is we're not even getting to our API call. And I think this is one of the trickiest parts of React. So I'm going to jump in here a minute and let's talk about this. We see this error, and we see if we look at our console logs, the page starts, we see rendering, it starts again, but we don't hit the API call. And we see this type error cannot read properties of undefined length. And we see that happening right here. So the reason we're seeing this is because use effect is a little weird when we set it up this way with this empty dependency array. Use effect fires after the component renders. Right? It fires after the component renders for the very first time. So the very first time we see this page, it renders first and use effect fires second. So how can I make sure that we don't show this stuff until we've actually fired the use effect after the first render and gotten this data?
Ternary for display.
Yeah, exactly. And there's more than one way to do it, right? We could maybe change the state so it works okay, but I wanted to make sure we saw the ternary in action. So Tom, I know I'm doing a bit of navigating as well, so thank you. And so I'll just add a ternary here and we'll say characters or null. And we'll do the same thing here just to be kind of extra safe. And there's cleaner ways to do it, but I think that is a good starting point. And let's see now if I'm running into an issue.
Side question, we don't have to go into it too much, but
Yeah.
would a callback hook be useful here?
Um,
E?
I'm actually not that familiar with the
Okay.
callback hook.
Okay, not a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, unfortunately. So I actually don't know. It sounds like it. I'd have to check. React it's got a lot of hooks.
Mm.
And this is like new versions have come out, so there are definitely other ways to do this, but this issue comes up in different ways enough times in React that that's good to see this. All right, I think we are almost home. We see that we're getting our about data. And it's sending back. It's a little hard to see, but if we kind of go to the network tab, And if I go here and we look at our character data, we see that we've got this object, info, results. I'm console logging response, but I'm still not seeing characters show up. So we're almost there, but I think there's something with how we're dealing with the response data and the way this data is shaped and how we're putting it into state that's not quite right.
Yeah, I think characters needed to be changed to if we're doing .info and we're setting it to .info, I think characters needs to be changed to characters .count. And episodes will be .count.
Yeah, we can definitely do the dot count. And let me go ahead and do that. And just
But I also mean down below as well, because we're calling length on it, but we're calling like an int from it.
Yep. So we can do that. And I'm gonna actually, just for my own sanity, rename this to be like, let's call it characters count. Otherwise, I just know I'll get confused as to what this is holding.
Yeah, because otherwise I would have said we should have set up the context thing and then passed it along so that way we could have used it for the characters page and the character page,
Right,
etc. Then it would have been useful here.
right.
But since we
And
didn't set that up,
right. And in fact, we may want to do that in a little bit. And let me go ahead and change this here. All right. We're still not seeing it show up, and this is definitely a little bit of a gotcha, and it has to do with how Axios organizes our data.
Well,
oh,
it
it
has it right there.
response.data.info.count.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
There you
exactly.
go. Yep.
Yeah, good deal. And Tom, thank you, sir. And Rick, I saw you were going there as well. Awesome. So now we have this working, and we have a really nice flexible get about data function that we can reuse, which is pretty cool. How can I make my other API call now to get the episode data?
Same way. With another use effect, because I don't think you can use the same use effect.
Yeah.
Because it gets funny.
Yeah, exactly. So you touch on a really good point. It does indeed get funny. Part of what a use effect does in React is it should guarantee, I believe it guarantees the order that these things happen. And let's see if my memory here is correct. Where if we do episode and then character, we see episode and then character. But if I change the order, we see character and then episode. So because this is what's called a side effect, it's making an API call that takes some unknown number of milliseconds. We need to tell React it's happening so that React knows when it's done, so we can update state and then update the DOM and update the virtual DOM and all that good stuff. So React uses use effect to keep track of that stuff. And because these are two separate API calls that update separate bits of state, so that React can control the order of things and know what's going on, we need to put it in two separate use effects. And I think this is one of the trickier bits of React, so I just want to check in to see if that helps break it down a bit. And Rick, yes, sir.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that it's tricky, but there are ways to like bundle the two API calls into a single API call, but it also gets a little tricky too. But yeah, I understand. I hope everybody else is good.
Yeah, there's definitely more than one way to do this. I could do multiple awaits if I wanted to inside here. For sure, that's one way. It really just depends on how we design our code. I think the main thing to think about is if I have if I'm updating, if I'm making like multiple API calls and updating multiple bits of component state, either it all needs to happen within one asynchronous function. But if I'm making more than one asynchronous function call, I probably want more, each one in a separate use effect so that React can take care of this one, update state, and then take care of this one and update state and do it in a consistent way.
Is
Yeah,
it
and there's not really like one right answer here. Um, there's maybe a couple advantages to putting it all in one try catch, but this has the advantage of it's kind of clean and organized, and the function does just one thing. So it's just a question of trade-offs.
um would it be possible, and just out of your experience, is it possible to use a dot then inside of a use effect?
Uh, Short answer is yes. Like instead of if I was doing, axios.get, if inside here I was maybe doing, something and then dot then, you absolutely can. In fact, that's sort of what we're doing here. The important thing is it would all need to be one thing inside of the use effect. Um, like if I wanted, which is sort of what's happening here, but we're using async await.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So does it
sorry, I got a little lost in the sauce there, but the short answer is yes. But we either have to go with async await or the dot then approach.
is it is dot then only possible because of the promise relationship,
They are
or is
both
it
promises.
okay, so dot then only works because it's a promise,
Exactly.
so it has to work with like an async function.
Yeah, so that touches on a great point. What actually came first in JavaScript, and I think this is good to dig into a little bit, but then I'll bring us back to the main thing. Um, Originally in JavaScript, you only had dot then. And that was how you worked with promises and kind of like use effect. The problem a promise is trying to solve is if I make an API call, it might take 5 milliseconds and JavaScript keeps running. So how do I tell JavaScript that I'm doing something, but that JavaScript needs to come back later and check out what's going on here? And so you can kind of see a promise. It has a state. It can be, they call it pending. Dot then is when it's fulfilled. Dot catch is if there's an error. And if I scroll down a bit, we're not going to worry about promise creation. Here we go. So this looks like I think what we've seen before, where I might do, axios dot get dot then this dot then that, right? And it might look something like this, API character. And I could do dot then here, but usually we write it on the next line. And it was like response, and maybe I don't know, um, response dot data dot info, and then dot then set character count, uh, excuse me, set character count to info dot count. Let's see if I can kind of get this all on one line. There we go. So you can chain dot thens. Um, async and await is actually just syntactic sugar for exactly this, for a promise. So instead of multiple dot thens, I use await inside a function that I've set as asynchronous. Um, it's a little weird. I think the important thing is both of these are a promise, and they're just two different ways of doing the same thing. And the dot then approach came first, and it is a little confusing. And so the minds of JavaScript created the async await syntactic sugar. And in general, I would recommend using async await for simplicity, unless you feel very passionate about doing it the other way. Yeah, great question. I know that was a little bit of a digression, but good to see. I think because that's one of the trickier bits along with use effect. And now we've got a lot of really good stuff going on with our app, right? We have 826 characters and we have 51 episodes and we're getting some character data. And Tom, thank you, sir. That was an awesome kind of walkthrough of building out this page. And if we kind of just move on to our implementation plan, we've got the about page reel. And up next, we have all characters. And up next in our rotation is Rick. All right, so Rick, we want to make the all characters page real. I have the page that exists as an empty skeleton, right? And I know that I want to, let's scroll over to our all characters page. And there's going to be a couple steps here actually. So let's do a little tail draw manipulation real quick. I want to make that API call to get all the characters, and I want to make the character card, and I want to show the characters on the all characters page. So where do you want to start?
All right, well, first, well, let's go to the all characters page. Yeah, in pages.
Okay.
Okay, so for
And
one thing, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I apologize. I just saw someone had a question. I
Yeah.
just want to check in real quick. Sam, yes, sir.
You're froze.
Uh-oh, yeah, frozen or muted. All right. Sam, I think we'll come back. Are you there?
I don't know.
There you go. What's on your mind?
Okay. I was just asking, since we already made an API call to the resource that we're going to go to the characters, are we able to grab that data and bring it to the all characters page instead of making two separate API calls to the same resource?
That is a good question.
I would say that you can add that to the app.jsx to do the API call.
Got it. Okay, let me
So, all right, now go ahead.
I'm just gonna make some room for comments here. So
All right.
got it. So you're saying we want to uh make API call to get all characters up here? And
Yeah.
then what would we want to do with it once we have it, Rick?
All right, so once we get the all characters, then you want to actually, well, you need to actually like figure out the API call,
Yep.
you got to make a use state and a use effect.
Right. So
Yeah.
we'll need use state, we'll need use
Yeah.
effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll need the characters to live in, it might look something like
Yeah,
this.
above the return. Yeah.
Yep. And then once I have this, how am I going to get it into my about page and my all characters page?
To do that, you have to export it to the children. Let me remember how to do that. And you can call it anything you want, but you can. Are you going? Where are you going? Oh, you're
Oh,
going to
I'm
the
going to the
outlet.
outlet.
Okay. All right. Hold on.
Yeah. And in fact, I think this is a good time. I've been waiting for this moment where I
What's
get to
that?
draw. I was just saying I've been waiting for this moment where I get to draw a component tree hierarchy.
Yeah,
But oh,
go ahead.
continue.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to pass it to the children, so what was I just saying?
Pass it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you need to pass it to the children. So um, you need to pass the props to the children. A couple ways to do that. So you got set character as a use state. I would use a empty array inside a use state, but I'll wait till you get done there.
Oh yeah, I agree. That's a good idea. We know an array is going to end up in there, so we might
Yeah.
as well.
All right. So then you also need to actually create your uh, the setter, if you want to call it setter and getter for the set characters and characters. So you need to you need to once you get done there,
Yeah, because
trying to decide if it needs to go outside of the return. So you need to create a function to actually fetch the characters.
yep, absolutely. Um,
And once you get back over, um, I'll, yeah, I'll,
and
I'll navigate you once you get back.
yeah, and let me ask you,
Yep.
what's the challenge that we have here with passing characters as a prop from app into our all characters page or our about page?
Well, one's just, um, the about is actually just sending the count of how many characters, but the all characters is actually displaying a card, which is fetching all the data from the characters and displaying it.
Yep, that's an excellent point. We absolutely are going to need to do some manipulation of once we have that character's state up here, right? But even putting that aside, what I want to do it like this.
Characters equals. Yeah, because you would pass characters as the characters that you're actually getting in your use state.
Yeah, close. With a normal
Okay.
component, we absolutely could do that, but this outlet component is a little special. Because it's coming from React Router DOM, and
Yeah.
we don't necessarily know what child it's going to render. So, and this is kind of what we just saw this yesterday, but we have to handle this slightly differently, right? I see a couple hands up. Uh, Tony, yes, sir.
I was going to say you have to build a context object and send it out as context.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And Rick, otherwise, like your logic and walking through the implementation and stuff is bang on. And I realize I did a little bit of a leading question here. But I figured this is good and good for us to see. And this is where stuff gets a little funny, right? Because I don't have, if instead of outlet I had uh all characters, like we were saying, I absolutely could just do characters equals this.
Mm-hmm.
And for my about page, like you were saying, I absolutely could do characters count equals characters dot length. But because these are really inside an outlet,
Inside the outlet, yeah.
yeah, I can't pass them in directly. And at this point, I have to use the semi-magical
Yeah,
context. Yeah, exactly. And whatever I put in context, and let's see if it lets me draw on top of context. I feel like this is an exciting moment in TL draw history if we can. There we go. Then whatever goes into context, I can put into any child of the outlet that I want, right? Using that use outlet context.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And it would look something like you know, like this. I see a couple more questions that I want to take, and then Rick will keep on implementing.
Yeah.
Tony, yes, sir.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I just had a question on the context. So, if you were to branch even further and let's say put children in the router to the children, could you create another outlet in that parent and pass context through the children that way? Or is that something you only want to do at the top level?
Short answer is probably yes. I think if you had multiple outlets, you absolutely could have different context objects. Yeah. I do see a couple other questions. I actually do want to take us home on this because we have to pause in a minute for retro. And what we'll do is we'll just pick this up after lunch because we're actually probably about 50% of the way through here. And Rick, I apologize, but I think just in the interest of time and because this is a key bit, I'll build our implementation here. And I apologize for jumping in on your turn.
Yeah. Well, I know how I would do it. I'd create a function that would create a context.
Oh yeah.
Probably name it like create context. Do an export statement for character context.
Oh, I see. Yeah, these yeah, there's a couple things we can do here. Let's
Your constant object or context object would have worked too.
yeah.
But
Let's yeah, why don't we are gonna run tight on time actually. I'm not sure if we can finish
Yeah.
this before the retro. Yeah, so actually what I'll do is I'll build out our sort of to-do list a little bit here and then we can pick it up after retro. Because you're on the right path here, right? We need use state to hold characters. We need to make the API call to get the characters. So we're gonna have to put API call in the use effect. And the use effect is going to have to update state, like you were saying. And then I need to create context object. And we're going to want to put inside of it characters and probably characters count. And then in about page, use outlet context to get characters count. And in our all characters page, use the use outlet context to get all the characters. And I know I kind of switched from driving to navigating a bit here. So thank you for being patient with me guys on that. But I think this is a good pause point because this way we can pause here. We can take a short break for retro, but we kind of have a good wrap up here because we know what we want to do next,
Context.
right? I'm going to want to build out this context object, which right now isn't going to have much in it. It's just going to have characters, which is empty. But once it's done, we will pass it in the outlet. And then if I wanted to use it, and I'm just going to put it here just since we're talking about it so we can see it visually to kind of close the loop, we would use that use outlet context hook.
Mhm.
I'm getting an object back, right? I'm getting that whole outlet context object, but I only care about part of it. So I'm going to destructure the object to get all the characters. And then I would, do stuff with characters. I think this is a good pause point. So then we can pick this up after retro. And Rick, thank you again, man, because I know I kind of jumped in a bit here. So let me go ahead and pause our recording. Actually, we'll probably stop it because we have to record for retro, and then we will pick it back up after lunch. And let me go ahead.